If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Check it out now.
Super Bowl 59 Megapod, or as Gronk calls it, Super Bowl LIX. Gill Alexander, thank you for tuning in on Twitter Live. Everybody, time to retweet. Let's see. Let people know we're on. Because otherwise, if they're not following VSiN, they won't know. Go to the VSiN account. There it is. And retweet that bad boy. All right. We're good to go. As always, guest of the show for our final podcast of the football season. It's always a little sad, always a little melancholy. From his mom's cork attic in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the star of Showtime's docuseries Action, Todd Wishnev. What's happening?
Hey, how are you?
Will Hill at Not The Will Hill, the host of the Should Have Bet More podcast, and of course, also a part of Bear Bets, Chris Felica's Fox podcast empire. What's happening, Will? Good.
Hi, how are you? Are we all doing the melancholy thing? Are we all going to come on here?
Todd Wishnev. Hey, and our guest, who has been our guest, I actually have Megapod historical stats, but this is kind of his week. Because he made his hay, he made his fame, he rose to prominence, he became the man that he became because of the Super Bowl prop betting. Rufus Peabody, half of the Massey Peabody Analytics team. He's also half of the Bet the Process podcast, which he does with Jeff Ma. And he's also co-founder of Unabated, along with Captain Jack and others. And Rufus, at some point in this podcast, maybe like 5-10 minutes from now, is going to have to duck out because he's going to have to go to the bathroom. So just letting you know. That's how
he's also on the Michael Lewis sports.
I might have to go to the bathroom right now. Hold on one sec.
Oh, he might have to go to the bathroom right now. He might have to go to the bathroom right now. It's a good way to start this one. Yes. Rufus goes to the bathroom. We'll talk about this for a second. So Michael Lewis, the author of, you got to run?
I will. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Do it. We'll talk about you while you're going. Rufus got to go to the bathroom.
I wanted to talk about this when he was there. Why don't we wait? Why don't we wait until he comes back? Because I want to hear what he has to say about this.
Oh no, we will. We will schedule. He schedules his bathroom breaks. That's how I knew he had to go to the bathroom in advance for that one. No, we can talk about it before because. No, I am kidding. Yes, I am kidding. A live shot of Rufus trying to figure out how to get to the bathroom. So here's the deal. So Rufus, in addition to what I just talked about, yes, he is pretty much the focal point of Michael Lewis's podcast series, season 5 of Against the Rules, which is about sports betting. Michael Lewis, the author of Moneyball, famously, The Blind Side, The Big Short, other Wall Street related books. Probably my favorite author. I'm guessing your favorite author too, Todd. So many people's favorite author. But Rufus is fantastic in this. His role in this, and Michael Lewis does a great job of sort of couching Rufus's place in the betting ecosystem. And I'll say this without Rufus here and Rufus doesn't need to hear it again because he was just on a numbers game on the radio side yesterday and we went through this. But essentially, for those who are unfamiliar with Rufus, Rufus he grew up in the DC area like I did. He grew up in Northern Virginia, went to T.C. Williams High School. Remember the Titans? You remember from that movie? That's the high school. He then went to Yale as part of his thesis. He did the inefficiencies in the baseball betting market was his thesis at Yale. He read an article in, I want to say it was in Sports Illustrated, Gene Wojciechowski, about Las Vegas Sports Consultants, which Roxy Roxborough founded and was about to sell. And he started, he learned of this place for the first time in his life. Las Vegas Sports Consultants by this time were responsible for all the lines that were generated in Vegas. Rufus was fascinated by it. He tried to get an internship there. At first, it didn't work. Then he pestered them and he got one. And he started, he spent the summer working there and learning that side of the business, and he was exposed to all this new stuff. I mean, imagine a Yale guy doing this, right? Choosing to spend his summer in the heat of Las Vegas because he was so fascinated by betting markets. And the Super Bowl where the Cardinals played the Steelers. And by the way, part of this is recounted in the Michael Lewis podcast. But that Super Bowl, the famous one where Santonio Holmes did the toe tap and the Steelers won, he was really over leveraged. He borrowed money. He was getting free rolled by others. But he basically used his models while working at Las Vegas Sports Intelligence. He basically used his models to try to bet that Super Bowl. And pretty much it was the props. And one of the things was Gary Russell first touchdown score. And, his number said that it was a far more likely outcome than what the betting odds suggested. So that triggered a bet. And there was any number of them. And I don't know if that he missed a bet in that particular Super Bowl. And so he ended up, from an ROI perspective, to this day, from an ROI perspective, probably having his most profitable Super Bowl of all time. Not the most money he's made, but from an ROI perspective, it was the greatest ever. But essentially, that's where this journey for him first started. He ended up being a subject of a Washington Post article about him killing Super Bowl props. And for years and years and years, the history of Super Bowl props was the Westgate was the first one to open. It was a Tuesday night. Everybody would line up. You could make 3 bets, a max amount of money, and then you had to go to the back of the line and make bets again. And the way this has evolved, Super Bowl props, by the way, which began historically during Super Bowl 20, the run-up to Super Bowl 20, when Art Manteris at Caesars put up a prop on William the Refrigerator Perry to score a touchdown in Super Bowl 20. It started out at 40-1. He couldn't get much action because the Bears were big favorites against the Patriots. So he came up with this prop idea. Bettors betted down from 40-1 down to 5-1. And famously, William the Refrigerator Perry scored a touchdown. He had been inserted in the backfield for the Bears often that year in the Bears' magical run to the Super Bowl title. And in fact, William Refrigerator Perry scored in the Super Bowl. Mike Ditka later said it was one of the big regrets of his career because he wished in retrospect that Walter Payton had scored a touchdown. Walter Payton was sort of in the twilight of this long career, finally got to a Super Bowl and didn't get in the end zone, but the Fridge did. So that's how Super Bowl props started. I told Rufus, I just told the story again about the Super Bowl between the Steelers and the Cardinals, how it started for you, the Washington Post article, and sort of the rest is history. Where now we have, instead of that night at the Westgate, by the time the NFC and AFC championship games are over, these books like DraftKings and FanDuel have all these props just ready to go, at least the formulaic. So Rufus is
and
back.
Player props.
And player props. Rufus, how'd the bathroom break go? Good, good, successful?
That's great. Successful.
Great. Very good. Glad to hear it. Let me just, before we get to Rufus's take on the, because I know Todd wants to ask about the Michael Lewis thing, just a few MegaPod historical stats, since this is our last football MegaPod of the year. From MegaPod historian Tim Lawson, the host of the Better Life podcast. Tim Lawson with some historical MegaPod stats. And Todd, I was shocked by some of this that related to you. The NFL MegaPod officially began this podcast, this MegaPod, for a full season on the Betting Dork feed in 2011. However, there were a handful of episodes produced before that 2011 season featuring guests like Las Vegas Chris, Ed Feng, and Joe Fortenbaugh. MegaPod did not have a Thanksgiving week episode until 2019, which was also the first year that Marco and VR did not co-host. Palm and Parlay co-hosted in 2019. The first 5 seasons did not have an episode for the final week of the regular season. This is Rufus's, today, 15th appearance on the NFL
15?
MegaPod. 15th, his 6th in the
Wow.
postseason. Rufus has the 3rd most appearances for MegaPod preview shows. He's only behind Fortenbaugh with 19 and Brady Cannon with 17.
I'm coming
Marco
for it.
and VR, you're coming for it. Marco and VR co-hosted 142 episodes. Todd has now co-hosted, are you ready for this? 130. He's only 12 behind. Wow. 7 years for Marco and VR, 6 with you, Todd. You did 66 with Palm, 22 with Parlay, and 44 with Will Hill. But we
Todd, how do you feel about being in the close to the company of luminaries like Vegas Runner and Marco D'Angelo?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you get to be in such incredible company, it's really like when you get a statue out in front of my mom's cork attic. It's a big deal.
What were you saying? Rufus went out for a minute. You were talking some shit about the Orioles. You want to say that to his face?
Please.
Won a playoff series, got swept last year, got swept this year. Why don't you continue what you were saying, Todd?
Wait, last thing. Let me finish my bit here. Dr. Bob, longest active streak, regular season pods. Dr. Bob 8. Drew Dinsick, longest active streak postseason with 5. Meltzer, longest active overall streak with 14 lifestyle appearances. And that's it. There you go. Todd's small gap with Marco and VR is possible because of the shorter seasons they had and the lack of Thanksgiving episodes. There you go. All right. Rufus. Todd, you wanted to ask about the Michael Lewis pod?
Orioles stopped hitting, and if we're going to talk about the Baltimore Orioles, I don't know how they stopped hitting. Those guys were crushing the ball every single day, and then all of a sudden they just stopped hitting. It was so sad because I was so hyped for that team, except for that left field. I don't like that left field deal. You crush the ball, and it's an out. Are they moving it back?
They're kind of doing a happy medium.
Oh, okay.
It turns out they realized that maybe it wasn't actually that good for their hitters. And I think the whole point was they were going to build a team and around having like better outfield defense. And it turns out like guys like Ryan Mountcastle kind of need it. Like that cost a bunch of homers.
Right. Austin Hayes.
And then it got in their heads. And then they started stopped being able to hit even on the road.
It's just aggravating watching the game and watching a guy blast the ball to deep left, and then this guy just comes over and camps under it at the 386 mark. It's like, come on, that was a home run. I didn't like when they moved that back.
Todd, what did you want to ask Rufus about the Michael Lewis pod?
Oh, no, I listened to some of the Michael Lewis stuff, and Michael Lewis is my favorite author. I just was wondering what's he like in real life, and what was the experience? I mean, is he pretty much how he comes across in podcast things and stuff? He seems like a nice guy.
He's a really nice guy, and you can kind of see. I've had the privilege of having dinner a few times with him this year, and getting to talk with him quite a lot and kind of about the industry and just about life. And you can just see how his brain works. He's such a curious person, and he just kind of dives in. He wants to understand someone and make what makes them tick and just what makes them sort of unique. And you can kind of see him thinking about a little story in his head, and he just kind of, I don't know. It's so cool.
I really can't think of any people that I want to meet except Michael Lewis. I think there's no people. If you said to me, who would you want to meet and have dinner with? I can't think of anyone I would want to except for Michael Lewis. That's how.
Because I've never met you in real life, Todd. That's
not even Will Hill.
Yeah. Seriously.
Well, Will Hill, I have problems with him just from
You want to meet Michael Lewis more than you want to meet John Frenchie Fuqua? Are you sure about that? Really?
I don't really care to meet John Frenchie Fuqua or
What about Lane Kiffin? What about Lane Kiffin?
What about Lane Kiffin?
I would. No, I met you before. I met meeting. Lane Kiffin, I would like to meet just to tell him that when it's 78-0 against Furman, you don't have to throw the ball on 3rd and 7. It's called being obnoxious. There's some kind of, but I don't really need to tell him that because he'll never get it anyways. Because if you're that much of a schmuck, you're never going to understand what I'm saying.
Jeff Ma and Rufus on Bet the Process had Michael Lewis on their last episode, so that's maybe a podcast episode you should listen.
I have that bookmark to go listen to that one, yeah.
And I believe Michael Lewis said that Rufus would make a good teacher. Was one of the big sort of revelations.
Yeah, he thinks I'd be a better teacher than Bettor.
No, he didn't say that.
No.
What
we were talking about maybe what's finding meaning in one's life and that kind of thing.
I think I'd be a great.
You'd be a great what?
He'd just be a great
teacher. People who tell me that all the time because I can't explain topics rather thoroughly.
I feel like many of us would be good teachers, but it had to pay more, right? That's why you're never interested in doing it. Is that as simple as that?
What are you eating, Gilly?
I mean, it's part of it, probably, I'd say. But also, I mean, being a teacher, there isn't the same sort of, I don't know. I'm a competitive person, and there isn't the same sort of scoreboard there. But also, I find it a little surprising. I think Jeff found it surprising because Jeff knows I'm not the best at explaining things in a sort of concise manner.
Well, when I ask you to pitch Unabated, I always famously tell you you're the worst at this, right?
Yeah,
to give you Unabated bit. Yeah, like you're bad at this. Anyway, I just want to say about Rufus, because Rufus, and Rufus is one of the things that Michael Lewis says on the podcast Against the Rules is that he believes, and I've never heard it couched this way, but it made me super proud of Rufus. Not that I have any business about being proud of Rufus like I'm his dad, but it did because I've known Rufus for a long time. And one of the things Michael Lewis said was, that Roxy was sort of the first known person to really use analytics to approach sports betting, at least famously, and that Rufus might be the bridge, to that, at least the way that his narrative went, because Michael Lewis is a great sort of weaver of words, that Rufus was the bridge to this next generation of gamblers who used analytics. And I thought that was I don't know, Rufus kind of objected to it, but I thought that was a really good way of couching it. So anyway,
I think someone like me, right? Someone in my generation doing this type of thing. I'm clearly not the only one.
You're clearly not the only one, but fuck off. You were one of the first. How about that?
I'm one of the ones that is more public facing.
There you go. Okay. Rufus is very modest when it comes to it. Anyway, it's a great podcast. It's a series of episodes from Michael Lewis called Against the Rules. How Rufus, and this will cover some of the ground we covered yesterday on radio, but how has this changed for you? You used to always be up on the openers. That was your thing. Not so much anymore.
Correct. Yeah. Part of it's just that I'm getting old and lazy and fat. I'm just not.
You're so obese. You're so fat.
Not obese fat. Just it's a mindset, Gill.
Yeah.
But so I think part of it is drive is just there isn't the same drive, but I think it's because there isn't the same biscuit. There aren't 30% edges just sitting out there that are going to disappear if you don't hit them. Or if there's not as many of them as there used to be. It used to be the case that there was so much value hitting openers, especially when Will Hill put up openers, the sportsbook, not the person. We just couldn't get enough money down. We'd be betting they would take 1,000 per and we'd get 200,000 down. And so we just have very big positions on the openers and then kind of wait for things to kind of come back Super Bowl weekend and kind of supplement it a little bit there, but just have a ton on these openers. And it was very much a race to get the openers. We had a whole team in Vegas. We had people, someone was doing the loop going from Wynn to Venetian over to Treasure Island, literally doing it every 30 minutes to check when the prop sheet's coming out. You had your personal relationships with ticket writers and supervisors that came in handy at this time of year. It's not the same anymore. It kind of started with mobile betting. Mobile betting made it so that you didn't there wasn't that same return to sort of hustle that there used to be because anybody can just do it on their phone. So that made the openers last a little, or it made the openers not quite as lucrative. And then now with PASPA being repealed and the fact that these books are coming out with props Sunday night, and the fact that you have these books pricing these more esoteric props most weeks, the books have a better idea of what they're doing. And so if Wynn is pricing, or I don't know, South Point, or they're pricing some prop that they only price once a year, they still have a market to look at because there is that prop up somewhere else. Whereas in the past, it was kind of they're putting up something, there isn't really a market there. And so for that reason, it just isn't as lucrative or to go after those openers. And there's still plenty of value to pick up to be picked up. I think if you go to Westgate opening night, or if you get the South Point openers, or stations. I haven't even checked at stations this year, but I just decided that I'm not going to stress over it, and I'm just going to attack it this week rather than last week.
No, all that makes sense, especially the part about how now they do props kind of every week, so they have the data, they have the muscle memory, which they didn't. Give that example though. Give it just one example, just to sort of shed light on how it kind of used to be, the Johnny Avello prop that he put out every single year?
Oh yeah, that's the one that stands out in my head when he was at the Win. It was, will there be a roughing the passer penalty called? And he would always open it, no minus 115, yes minus 115. So you'd bet it at minus 115, bet it at minus 130, bet it at minus 150, minus 180, minus 260.
Which side, the yes?
Clearly. No.
Yeah.
Come on, Todd.
Well, that's why I said, but maybe other people might not have known that. So because you don't explain things well, I had to step in.
If they don't, if people think that there's roughing the passer penalties called in the majority of games, I don't know what to say to them.
God could resist.
I was trying to people that weren't.
And so,
you go ahead.
And so John, not to pick on Johnny, but like he didn't adjust from year to year. There was no like analysis on their part on any of this.
I think he just looked at the sheet that basically, I think he probably saved a version of the sheet from the previous year, like which had the openers, not what it moved to. Yeah. That's my own. That's my only guess.
Explanation. Yeah.
But it probably, to be fair to Johnny, it doesn't actually matter that much. It's one game a year, and that stuff does get bet into shape by sharps. And when he's taking action from Wales on Super Bowl Sunday, the odds are pretty much in line with the market.
So you have just made the sort of time allotment assessment at this point that while there might be some opportunity, it's not anywhere near it used to be, and so you're just not about that anymore. And so go ahead.
I think there still are big opportunities out there because the prop menu's gotten even more extensive, and I think that there's a lot of opportunities probably surrounding SGPs for people attacking that, but it's a different ball game.
So what percentage of your prop bets, and by the way, you have nothing on the sider total. You're not even interested in the sider.
I haven't even made numbers. I haven't even looked.
Have you bet a side or total all year in the NFL?
I've bet a money line. Does that count?
Okay. But that gets the impression.
Money lines, teasers, first half money lines, some derivatives, but I haven't bet a full game side or total. Or I haven't bet a full game side or total since like maybe week 3. I think early season I thought there might I thought early season I might have had a little bit of alpha just being directionally correct on teams and over moves.
So then because I remember you go ahead,
real quick. He said the thing about same game parlays. I assume this is what you're saying. You're basically saying there's certain correlations that they're not pricing properly, and because of that, they're making the same game parlay number incorrectly. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I think there are books that have some things in general they're not pricing properly. I kind of did a deep dive into this earlier this NFL season and went down that rabbit hole and found some interesting stuff. But the problem is it's hard to scale that out. I also think that there's a lot of opportunities because these are models built pricing all these correlations, and they are built to be generally correct, but there are going to be exceptions. I don't think any model is going to be able to predict or properly price the fact that the running back usage for running back 1 versus running back 2 correlation, like on one specific team, might look very different than another team. Like clearly, like think about or I almost called them the Giants because Saquon, but think about the Eagles and Saquon. Like there's not a ton of uncertainty in terms of what percentage of the running back carries he's going to get. I think you could say there's some uncertainty in how much Jalen Hurts is going to run the ball, but Saquon is going to get, if he gets less than 80% of the running back carries, that would be a huge, huge shock unless he gets hurt. Agree?
Yes.
Now, Kareem Hunt, I wouldn't be shocked if he got 70% of the running back carries, and I also wouldn't be shocked if he got 30% of the running back carries.
Okay.
Right.
So what is right? So what are you?
But so that's like, because I feel like so that's like a bell cow running back versus a running back by committee. But there's running back by committee teams like the Falcons where you're generally getting about the same share every week. You know, Algier and Bijan Robinson, where there were weeks where one guy was getting like 80%, the other guy was getting 20%. like in the 60-40-ish range one way or another most weeks. And if I remember correctly, at least that was the case when I was looking at it in like October, November. But I could see with the uncertainty, I guess, with Pacheco, Pacheco came back from injury week 13. He hasn't been great, but neither is Kareem Hunt. But they're trusting Kareem Hunt in these big situations, it seems like to be able to get like that difficult 1 or 2 yards where they need it. Like he's doing well at that, even though he's running for like 3 yards a carry. And so I could see a world where Pacheco plays a good amount earlier in the game more than later. But if he starts off hot, that they just keep riding him. Like I could see that world. I think right. He was the bell cow running back for that team before he got hurt. Although Kareem Hunt was also that before, meaning like 6 years ago, but however many years ago it was. But my point is there's all these game specific things and team specific things that some general algorithm is going to have a really, really tough time pricing. And so if you can find the sort of exceptions to the rule, I think there's always opportunity there.
Interesting. Okay.
What percentage then, we talked about this yesterday, what percentage of your Super Bowl prop bets now, because you don't do opener, because you don't show up at the Westgate, what percentage of your Super Bowl prop bets occur tomorrow on or day of game? Tomorrow on versus day of game? In other words, day of game is 90%. Tomorrow on is 95%. Basically, what I'm getting at is you haven't made any bets.
I've made like 4 bets. I just was looking through and I was like, yeah, I might as well bet something.
Appreciate it.
So basically, I made no bets. So it's basically tomorrow on is going to be basically everything.
All right.
And
can you share your?
I would assume Saturday, Sunday will be like at least 85%. I would think.
And that is because your assumption, which is a good one, is that people will bet stuff upwards over, and you will come in on the unders. Generally speaking,
for some things, there's plenty of things where that's not going to happen too, though.
Okay.
And so it's just a matter of this is when we'll all be ready to go and we'll have the team together. And I think we'll try to, we may bet some stuff a little bit earlier, just then maybe it can bounce back and we can bet it again. Just that way we can get more down versus if we wait and bet something, then we don't give the market time to sort of move back, then we can't get as much down.
Can you share what you have bet so far?
I think I might have bet a under on interceptions, and I think I bet a yes on 3 unanswered scores. I bet some basic game prop stuff, basically.
Under on interceptions, total interceptions by both teams.
Yes.
And the yes on 3.
And that's one that's going to just get better, I think, because people are going to bet the yes on interceptions. People love betting those overs.
People's brains are wired that way. The 3 consecutive scores that Rufus. I'm sorry, Todd. Hold on one second. The three consecutive scores prop that Rufus just mentioned is the one that I always say on this podcast, probably every year, is the prop that flummoxes new bettors the most, which is it's worded, will the team score 3 times in a row, with the exception of 2-point conversions and extra points. And most new bettors think to themselves, well, these are 2 of the best teams in football, if not the 2 best teams. It's got to be very unlikely that 3 scores happen in a row. And so they believe that the minus number is in the wrong side of this, right? They believe the no should be heavily juiced, when in fact it is the yes that is juiced. And the yes I think you bet it at minus 160, you were saying, is still a good bet.
Looks like I got it at Westgate at minus 150, and I got it at Circa at minus 160. And that's the only, it's the only thing I bet at Circa. I also bet I bet yes, will Casey or Philadelphia make a field goal in the 4th quarter? Yes, minus 150.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that was
Casey
a huge
or
I just assumed it wouldn't stay there.
Okay.
And
that's a good bet just from your muscle memory of how your numbers came up.
I mean, that's algorithmic. Okay. It's based on it's based on how many total touchdowns and field goals I have projected in the spread and total in the game.
What's the number on the 3 consecutive scores? What's the number that you would not bet it at? Minus what?
I don't think I would bet it at minus 170 or above.
Todd, you were saying?
I was just going to ask about punts. I feel like punts have been just becoming less and less likely, so I don't know whether they've adjusted those down enough.
You've been watching too many Redskins games.
He loves the Skins. That's his team.
Not just Redskins.
Other kinds.
No, I think Todd brings up a good point, because I think, and this was Steve Fezzik's point when he was on the radio side, which is, of all the things that books are least likely to have adjusted for here in beginning of 2025, but after the 2024 season, is the rate at which teams are willing to go for fourth downs, which correlates with fewer punts, perhaps fewer field goal attempts. Would you agree with that general premise that somewhere in that world?
One other thing, long drives. We never used to see 10-minute drives that's like the norm. It happens all the time.
Again, this is the Washington Redskins. That's the game they've been playing. I don't think that's every team.
I think punts are down in general in the league as a whole. You're right with the Redskins, but I think in general, you don't think the punts are down in the league as a whole?
I don't know what they were last year. I'm not low on punts in this game, believe it or not. I think maybe there's some recency bias. But I do think that we are seeing there's less explosive offense clearly than there was 5 years ago, because I think it's the way defenses have adapted. Defenses are forcing teams to have these
14
sort of exactly
right.
They're not willing to run the play.
I said the 14-play drive is now basically the defense has decided, let's see if you can beat us and not make a mistake in 14 plays, and therefore we're getting less drives. I mean, you have tons of NFL games now where there's 3 drives aside in the first half, and that's it, because that first drive is, a lot of times 7-8 minutes. Same thing coming out of the third quarter. It happens all the time.
Do you anticipate, Rufus, and I don't know if you're taking requests because you might not want to give away this stuff, but I'll ask, because it came up on a numbers game this morning. Do you anticipate any value on will a team attempt a 2-point conversion, given the Eagles' propensity for wanting to tush push?
I don't think you can tush push from 2.5 yards out.
No, but if you get a defensive penalty, it's an automatic for any team now.
Yeah,
on an extra point. I'm just curious if they've adjusted for that kind of thing. Maybe that's where I think the fourth down thing becomes interesting.
I think that's the kind of thing the public's going to be betting the yes on. And so if I bet that, I'm going to wait and bet the no probably.
Okay.
So I think I'll get a better price close to game time.
Willie, you did bet the side here.
I mean, not a big bet, and part of it is doing these shows and podcasts for 2 weeks. You don't come on here. I don't have anything in the game. We'll just move on. It's the Super Bowl. I feel like I got to pick somebody. I'm just going to go with Mahomes. Went with him last year. Gone with him all of these games before the Bills game, where it's just like I can put my head on the pillow at night knowing I bet Mahomes, and if I lose, I lose. I just he's at the point where I don't want to go against him. I admit Philly getting a 1.5's got the better roster, the better team, the better stats, yards per play, a lot of this stuff. I think, Todd, you put it well right as the Chiefs-Bills game was winding down, right after that game ended. Probably going to be in a close game. In a close game, do you want Andy Reid, Mahomes, and I'll throw in Butker, the Chiefs kicker, or do you want Hurts, Sirianni, and Elliott, who's been very, very shaky for them?
Yeah, that's another huge thing. I agree. Chiefs, to me, it's Mahomes and Andy Reid and Spagnuolo against Sirianni, Hurts, and then you got Saquon. But a running back can be game planned for, I feel like, a lot easier. And I totally forgot about that. Jake Elliott has been a disaster. And if this becomes a close game, I don't know. I just think in the long run, I would.
This
much
guy's
rather
never
Mahomes
missed a postseason kick, right? Isn't Jake Elliott something like 24 for 24 in the postseason?
He missed one last week. He missed one against Washington. He missed 2 extra points against the Rams.
2 extra points. I was at the game.
I saw the graphic last week. I mean, maybe the graphic clearly must have made him miss, but I did see, and I do vaguely remember him missing last week. But I guess before that, he hadn't missed ever in the postseason for a field goal.
I mean, he missed 2 extra points.
Almost lost the game.
He's a really good kicker. He's been bad this year.
The extra point almost lost the game.
Rufus has been skiing and playing golf. He doesn't have time for this anymore.
Going to the bathroom.
Details of that.
Going to the bathroom.
He doesn't have time.
I'm going to pull this. I'm going to pull up these stats here because I now need to see. But
so we've
okay, so he was 0 for 1 last week. He missed a 50+ yard field goal. He made
how was he against the
Rams? He against the Rams he made 3 for 3 field goals and 1 for 3 extra points. And against Green Bay, he made 3 for 3 field goals and 1 for 2 extra points. See, this is a statement he's making to the team. He's like, stop this going forward on 4th down and scoring touchdowns. like I'm a field goal guy. Like we need field goals. But for the season, 78%. But like you look at
when the Rams were driving inside the 15, I was hoping that they didn't score that touchdown because Jake Elliott would have been killed by the Philadelphia fans. The rabid Eagles lunatics would have found him and killed him because it would have been his fault they lost that game.
So he's missed the kick in all 3 playoff games. He missed an extra point against Green Bay too, which I didn't remember.
Okay, but what about under pressure?
Well, extra points are kind of important. Are they not? Under pressure, what's that?
A kick in a big pressure moment.
Sample size? What's the sample size on that? How many kicks has he had at the end of the game for the win or not in this year? Probably not many.
I don't know, but
we could look. Back in there.
His career field goal percentage. He's 22 for 23 on field goals in the playoffs career, and actually only 32 for 37 extra points.
Well, that's pretty good.
No, but you're right. I mean, like the extra points do matter clearly, and I stand corrected. I was just being contrarian.
I'm on the Chiefs too. It's again like Will. It's we're this in an early window in week 11. Would I bet it? I'm being honest, probably.
So I'd have the Eagles in every teaser known to man. I would be teasing the Eagles everywhere if it was week 11. Unfortunately, there's not another teaser league.
But Patrick Mahomes has won, and then the Chiefs have won 17 consecutive one-score games, 12 in a row this year. So I'm certainly not fading him. Let me just ask you this for those, because I think, Todd, you're on the Chiefs as well.
I like the Chiefs here.
I'll ask this, though, even for those of us who are on the Chiefs. If I said this morning, if I came to you from the future and I said, okay, guys, one of these teams blew out the other one, even as Chiefs backers, wouldn't you probably guess it's the Eagles that did the blowing out?
Probably.
Yes.
So that's a little weird, right? So it's like we're even those of us who are backing the Chiefs are like, yeah, because they have this one score ability and they just figure it out. However, we also acknowledge that the Eagles do have a game script, as we've seen innumerable times this year, where they just wear you out. And so that's an interesting sort of thing. I don't think I ever remember going into a Super Bowl, let alone any other game, where I'm like, yeah, I'm on this team, but if it's a blowout, it's probably us who gets screwed.
But I was kind of surprised how that Redskins game was a lot closer than people realized. 55-23 final. But let's be fair. If they don't fumble the ball, on that end of half situation, and it goes into the half 20-12, and then even after that, Eckler fumbles the ball. I mean, it wasn't like the Eagles' defense was just shutting them down. And then I went to that game in Philadelphia against the Rams, and I was shocked by how much the Rams were able to move the ball on the Eagles. I thought the Eagles' defense was a lot better than it really played the last 2 weeks of the playoffs. To me, I didn't think it was that spectacular. I certainly was surprised that Washington was able to move the ball as well as they were, on the road like that in a playoff game. And that game could have been a lot tighter. So to me, I feel like you're really going to stop Kansas City. You're not going to stop Kansas City. Come on. In the end, it comes down to the end night Mahomes to make a big play. He's going to make the play.
The Eagles-Skins game was 34-23 Eagles, but the Redskins had the ball, and that's when Eckler got the ball poked out. Now, the Eagles deserve credit because it was a great poke out, right? Like Eckler was getting back. Let me just finish that. Eckler was getting back up, and he got the perfect poke. So the Eagles do deserve credit, but like the final score was cosmetic. I'll give you that. And can they count? That's the thing, by the way, with the championship games. The Skins fumbled 3 times. The Eagles recovered all 3. The Bills fumbled 4 times. They recovered all of them. our brain doesn't usually process.
Yeah.
Fumble luck's
Kansas City would have won the game going away if they wouldn't have fumbled going in at 7-3. Kansas City's driving and fumbles the ball away. If it goes 14-3 there and Kansas City's getting the ball to start the second half, I think, Buffalo's and by the way, the big play that everyone made a big deal about, which was probably correct, that wasn't a catch down, that actually helped the Bills, because then the Bills got a chance to come back and match the touchdown to make it 21-16 at the half. So I don't know. To me, it's just, I don't know. I mean, look, I respect the Eagles. I think they're a great team. They definitely deserve to be in the Super Bowl. In the end, I just feel like it's going to be Andy Reid against Sirianni and Mahomes against Jalen Hurts, and I'll take the Chiefs.
Chiefs also dropped a couple interceptions from Allen that first drive, like the first two passes.
Two in a row.
One of them they dropped two on the same play, and I think the Chiefs took a knee inside the red zone when they got the first down to seal it. So if they needed more points, they probably could have got more points, for whatever that's worth.
Any props from either of you guys, Will or Todd?
I know Goddard over is a popular one. I think that's still a good one. Chiefs have struggled with tight ends. I think they've given up an average like 72, 73 yards per tight end. Bowers went for 140, likely went for 100 and change. I think matchup-wise, Goddard getting to like 5 for 60 or something is certainly reasonable. So I do like the Goddard over. And I don't think the Chiefs will be able to run the ball. So Mahomes over attempts, I know it's high at 35.5, 36.5. I still like the over. I think this is going to have to be a Mahomes game, because I just don't think with their offensive line against the Eagles' defensive line, I don't think it's one where they're going to be able to run it for 3-4 yards a carry. I think they're going to have to throw it a lot.
For those who are wondering, because a little tradition on this last podcast is that we do halftime bets and national anthem bets if they're available, and they are available, and I've made bets. Kendrick Lamar is your halftime show. I have 2 bets on his first song. One is at 2-1. They Not Like Us at 2-1. Not the short shot. That was the bet there. I also got a little friskier with it. You don't think that's going to be it? You think he's going to end it with that, probably?
I've seen the possibilities, and I just feel like he's going to go outside the box.
The longer shot I took was at 7-1. And that's the song, that's Swimming Pools, where he basically says, he goes, Wishnev, drank. Todd, drank. That's how people know that.
Where'd you bet this, by the way?
Wager on the line.
Did they take
if Kendrick Lamar came... Wait, can I just say one thing? If Kendrick Lamar came right up here right now and said hi to me, I wouldn't be able to tell you it's him.
He speaks very highly of you, Todd.
No, he must be a huge superstar. Just don't know anything about that world at all.
Did they take a reasonable bet from you, Gilly?
No, they did not take a reasonable.
Okay.
Is the correct answer to that question. I will tell you this: if National Anthem CLV is what you're looking for, I'm your man. John Baptiste, American Treasure, is singing the National Anthem. He's more known for his keyboard playing. He's a keyboardist and just a general all-amazing musician. He has a couple renditions of the Star Spangled Banner online. 125 seconds is where it was lined. 2 minutes and 5 seconds. At minus 160 under. I was like, pound the under. Minus 160 is not nearly enough. It moved since then, has moved 2 seconds lower. Since then has moved another 2 seconds lower. Now it's at 121 seconds. So 2 minutes and 1 second. I would still go under. That'd be mine.
121 seconds, also known as the Wishnev.
Why is it known as the Wishnev?
I don't know. Gil told me to say
it would have been a lot less than 1 minute and 21 seconds. It was like 21 seconds, period. And plus with the tariffs, you got to take a couple seconds off of that.
Oh, tariff humor. Gotta get that in there. All right. So any other any other insights that we haven't shared here? Anything prop wise? Anything? Where do you see?
I want to pick Rufus's brain if he doesn't mind. Rufus, this is a popular one. Scoring the first 6 minutes, scoring the first 5 minutes with the Super Bowl. They let you pick the time. Is that something that you've bet in the past? Is that something you have interest in? And is your inclination to usually go yes or no, or it all depends on the game?
So that stuff is priced basically accurately now. It didn't used to be, but so I haven't found value either way. And I just am doing it off the spread and total. So, I mean, there used to be more value on the yes because people thought that teams start slow in the Super Bowl because historically they have.
Right.
And so I was kind of a contrarian to that, thinking that was overfit. But
what area?
I didn't see anything this year.
Let me ask you this.
Area?
Go ahead, Todd.
I was just going to ask you.
At the same time, they'll be perfect.
You said that there's a lot of this stuff has become more formulaic and they understand it. What areas, if you don't mind sharing, do you feel like have not really been explored enough to the point where there's going to be a little bit bigger mistakes theoretically?
I think it's the more esoteric stuff that maybe only one book is offering, where there isn't a lot to go off of, and the stuff that isn't offered every week. I think those are the greater chances.
Example of that?
I mean, I don't have anything off the top of my head. No.
Okay.
Will you bet this game live, Rufus?
No.
Okay.
He's not a live bettor.
Because I actually do think, man, even if you bet the Chiefs, and I thought about this too, maybe I'll bet a little more than I want on the Chiefs, and if they go up 7-0, I can get Philly plus 3.5. I mean, I don't see the Chiefs winning by a lot here. I mean, Kansas City winning by a field goal seems like a very realistic outcome. So if you can get the Eagles over a field goal, I know you're laying a little extra juice live, but that I don't think is a terrible way to play it. That's the other thing too, where you're getting 1.5 with the Eagles. If they go 3-0, or if the Chiefs start up 3-0, I mean, you're going to get a better number on Philly at some point, you would think, unless it's just Philly all the way, which is something I keep in mind.
Aren't the Chiefs the better team to come back? Aren't they better equipped?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, isn't that what they've done under Mahomes like every game, it feels like?
Especially in the playoffs, they've erased a lot of double digit deficits for sure.
Wait, what's Mahomes' record when trailing double digits? Isn't it? It's like insane.
Yeah, I know the first Super Bowl they won, they trailed every single playoff game by double digits, including the Super Bowl, yet won every playoff game by double digits, which is just incredible to think about.
Was the Texans
this year, at the beginning of the season, I think that he overcame multiple double digit deficits, and it's not like they lost a lot of games this year.
Do you guys understand I do not understand the Chiefs fatigue or the Chiefs hate. Like with Tom Brady and the Patriots, I sort of got it. There was Spygate, there was Deflategate, even though it was never proven, Deflategate. And people I guess Tom Brady was more of a cerebral player, wasn't really athleticism, and people got really started to hate the Patriots. And I got that. I don't get it with the Chiefs. Like Mahomes is just the most fun player to watch. They're going for a three-peat. I love any sport that has a team that is not only dynastic, but just awesome to watch, like great like this. And just doing things. I mean, 17 one-score wins in a row. That's never getting broken. Never.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And different versions of themselves too, where they trade Tyreek Hill. And what if somebody told you at the moment, all right, they traded Tyreek Hill, which was a kind of a blockbuster out of nowhere deal to Miami at the time. I think it was in March or something. They're going to win the Super Bowl this year. They're going to win the Super Bowl the next year. Then they're going to be playing for the Super Bowl in the third year. It is remarkable.
Dukes in the PNW. No way someone as historically punctual as Todd would be late for the season finale of the Megapod. Richard Palma. Is he live from a cork basement in New Orleans? No, still at his mom's, Pittsburgh. Buddhist Man, the first annual Superb Oriole Megapod 2024 baseball review pod with tortured Orioles fan Rufus Peabody, Yankees fan and noted Hal Steinbrenner hater not the Will Hill, and empty PNC Park heckler Todd Wishnev. And then finally, does Todd Wishnev have a bunch of old driver's licenses stapled to the cork attic wall behind him like Judge Valkenheiser did in Nothing But Trouble? I don't know that reference.
Yeah.
I was really bummed last year with the Orioles because I was really enjoying betting Orioles team totals over like every game, and it was winning every single game. And then all of a sudden it went empty, and I got sad. The Orioles just went like deathly cold offensively in the last part of the year. That's what I just keep remembering.
They really limped in. They had no vibes entering the playoffs. Negative vibes.
Yeah. But if you remember, like in June and July, they were crushing the ball. Every single game was like 8 runs, 10 runs. It was insane.
Yeah, then they lost
the
mojo.
Series where they swept the Yankees or something. Didn't something happen? They had a huge series, and then it just went all to hell. I have a question, Rufus. Last thing about a prop. Opening kickoffs. I think it's opening kickoffs. Will the opening kickoff be a touchback? That kind of thing. Obviously, we have new kickoff rules, new now these days. When you put that kind of stuff into a model, is 1 year's sample size enough for you to make a bet on, or is that just not enough?
I would say 1 year is enough. I haven't even looked at kickoffs yet, to be honest.
But you will,
I
would imagine.
Probably, but again, if there were huge edges, they would have already been picked off by other sharp bettors looking for mispricings there. So I don't anticipate it being a very lucrative thing to do, but at the same time, I probably need that to figure out like longest kickoff return, number of kickoff returns, things like bets like that.
What do you guys do for snacks during the game?
Ooh, stress eat whatever's in front of me.
I do too. You don't order to go or anything. You just wherever you are.
I have other people like we have a party every year. A party. It's like 12 of us that are all either they were all at some point affiliated with the betting group or friends of the original betting group from back in like 12 years ago. So it's not super wild, but someone else deals with the food situation. I'm always too busy with getting ready for the game, betting wise. What about you?
So you do watch it though at this point. You do watch it, Rufus, at this point? Of course. Yeah. Well, of course, there have been
traditional wings.
I know. Did not watch.
It was only once I didn't. I will say I think it was the Bengals Super Bowl, the first quarter went so poorly that I just went and got in the hot tub and just didn't watch for like a few drives. But then it ended up being a good Super Bowl.
What do you guys do, Gilly? What do you
have? Nothing specifically. I'll just probably get Chipotle all the day. Yeah.
Toddy, how about you?
Watching it solo.
Well, because I do, really take my food intake very seriously lately. I'll probably, there's a good chance I may die of diabetes in the next week. So you have to put that in the model too. It's probably about plus 850 that I could go down. And if the, Ozempic gets tariffed and I can't afford Ozempic anymore, hell, I could be 500 by next season. And, you'd have a big
what's the
problem
deal with is the Ozempic keeping your weight where it is? Are we going with that?
I think the Ozempic has helped me not be 370, but I'm still 320, so it's a disaster still. But that's just because my mental problems are so deeply ingrained that it's obviously, not just the food. I obviously have such strong addiction issues with food that it's like ridiculous.
Don't you take Fez's advice and just don't eat as much or whatever?
Well, that's a great idea. I've never thought of that. I never thought of drinking a lot of water and not eating as much. And when he gives those great ideas, sometimes I wonder, how could this guy be wasted in the field of sports gambling? He really should be like running the world. He should be like, the next Elon Musk, Stevie Fezzik with these ideas of maybe eating less. That's a good concept. And it's something that people have never really tried.
Do you think Steve's ever told drug addicts just why don't you just not do the drugs? Just don't do that.
Honestly,
I've never thought of that. I never thought I had a choice. This is amazing.
I don't know what I enjoy more though, when Fez gives that advice or the way that Todd takes it.
Oh, it's a great exchange.
It never goes well.
Well, I try to explain to him, is there such a world? Is there a word in the dictionary called compulsive? Does that word exist or not? Because if it does exist, then it's something. If it doesn't exist, then I'm with you. There's no such word as compulsivity, and there's no such thing as psychological, situations, and that's the world he lives in. But it's quite possible he may be a robot from another simulation. So that is another reason why he may not believe in such things, because I don't believe AI will have compulsive. Although if the large language models are big enough, maybe they'll teach computers to be compulsive too, and we'll start having AI robots that are fat. You never know.
Fez did give a compliment to the Starbucks menu today. He said they streamlined it, cut out a few things. He said it's still overpriced and the lines are too long, etc. But he did have some Starbucks commentary this morning, which I found interesting.
Fezzik's takes are just, his Twitter is just, he'll go from
betting exchanges to Starbucks or whatever. Yes,
but it's sometimes there's just this like lack of. don't say lack of self-awareness in some ways, but yes, somewhat like he has some really good tweets and then some that I'm like, what were you thinking?
You noticed a lack of self-awareness? What?
Do not ever bet a money line over minus 400 ever, ever, ever. And then becomes famous for losing with Purdue to Fairleigh Dickinson. So he's not always exactly consistent. Now, with all that said, we love Stevie, but the consistency and the self-awareness sometimes are a little lacking.
The greatest guy ever, too.
But we tell it to his face. Yeah, we tell it to his face. So, as I say on the show,
this is our way of testing to see if he's still listening, too.
Yes, he's totally listening. I always tell him in real life, I go, Stevie, you're such a normal, reasonable person in real life. Why are you such an asshole on Twitter? What happens to you? And he does have the thing that I appreciate, he does have awareness in the moment where he's like, yeah, you're probably right. And then the second he turns the corner, right? The second he turns the corner, he's just firing on Twitter again. He just can't help himself. He's like, if there was an Ozempic for Twitter for being a Twitter asshole, he should take it. But there isn't. Todd, what did you say? You hear voices, food voices? I think it's actually interesting. You hear food voices and then...
that was a bad way of explaining it. But people who have dealt with compulsive eating will understand what I'm talking about. People who haven't will not understand. The urges that I'm getting for food to do something improperly with food, because I'm planning every day to eat healthy too. Many of the days, maybe not every day. Some days I'm just demoralized, but many days I'm planning on doing the right thing. I'll have a streak of 3 good days or 20 good days or 7 good days. But the problem is whatever's running the show in the subconscious is obviously stronger than the conscious. And that I don't know how to explain that to people who don't have that issue, other than to say, I understand why you think I'm crazy, because if I go into a bar, I don't have to have a drink. I mean, I could have an alcoholic drink today and never have one for another 5 years, and I wouldn't even hear a call to my brain to have some alcoholic beverage. So when a guy desperately needs an alcoholic drink, I don't understand what he's feeling. So obviously, I don't have that thing. So that's probably the way other people are thinking about me when I drive past the pizza shop. They're like, just don't go into the fucking pizza shop. What's wrong with you? And I understand what they're saying. However, I don't think what's happening in their brain is the same that's happening in my brain. And that's why I use the example of alcohol, because I have no interest in alcohol whatsoever.
Tim Lawson chimes in, doing something improperly with food definitely makes it sound like you're screwing your food. So probably come up with a different stuff.
I mean, I'd probably do it if it was able to be done, but yeah.
No. That's a good explanation. For a reason. Okay. And on that note, Rufus, appreciate it. Good luck with all your bets that you are about to make 95% of, apparently, for Super Bowl 59. The rest of us are all on the Chiefs. No totals. Nobody's betting the total in this game. Nobody. Not here. Nobody wants the total.
I didn't bet it, no.
I'm going to be rooting for the under probably just because of props.
Yeah.
As always, I'll probably be rooting for nothing to happen.
So you probably like that Patriots-Rams game.
I love boring. Oh, yeah, of course. I love boring Super Bowls.
That was the Super Bowl that was on the action show.
Yeah. That was the one where you had the Rams at hitting exactly 3 points for a good amount?
I remember that ticket. Yeah. That was before. Yeah.
That was literally like the most boring Super Bowl to watch from a perspective of like a fan entertainment, but it was, but I was loving every minute of it. I was like, nothing's happening. This is amazing. This is what I've always
missed a field goal at the end of that game too. I remember there being a late field goal in garbage time. Did they miss one late?
They missed.
I don't remember.
They missed one late. Yeah. Wide left. Yeah,
that was a game the Rams could have easily won. The Pats did nothing. I remember the Rams finally got a first down like across midfield when the game was maybe tied, and they called it back with a hole. That was one. Brady did not play well in that game. That was one they could have lost. As
neither offense played well.
Yeah, no, you're right.
That was the Todd Wishnev Discovery Super Bowl. Todd Wishnev plucked out of a crowd for a Showtime docuseries.
Well,
I still haven't watched that. I got to watch that.
How do you feel years? How many years ago is this? 4, 5?
This was 5 years ago.
6 years ago now.
6 years ago. 6 years ago.
It was filmed during the football season of 2018 and the Super Bowl of 2019. So it was exactly 6 years ago.
So 6 years ago, how do you feel about your appearance on that? Like looking back.
how do I feel about it?
Yeah, like
I mean, in what sense? Well, I feel like I would have never met somebody like Gill had it not been, so that was a huge positive. The truth is I knew exactly what I was getting myself into, so I didn't want to appear too smart because I was worried, that I would get limited or something like that. So that was fine. And then, other than maybe, it not going anywhere, but I didn't really care whether it was fine. I guess overall, I was fine about it. And I knew that they would twist certain things and everything ahead of time. So I wasn't really, but I'm not that concerned about what everybody thinks. Otherwise I wouldn't do a megapod for my mom's cork attic, would I? And have Gilly, make fun of me endlessly, but that's fine.
Yeah. Rufus, have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw it back in the day.
I really do think like Todd's storyline, if you will, with Deanna was the sweetest part of that docuseries. When Todd is with Deanna in Vegas, people still recognize them. They recognize Todd, period. But when they're together, they recognize him. Todd's a fucking idiot because she loves him. So let's just get that out of the way. But I will say this, and I think the showrunner Dave Check would agree with me. So I don't think I'm talking out of school. But I was sort of consulting with them before, and I got Crack in there, and I got, that was my contribution. But I think the real sort of fascinating thing from that is overall was they had 4 characters in there. The most prominently remembered is, of course, Vegas Dave, tout of all touts. And their approach behind the scenes, Dave Check, the showrunner, Luke, the director, was, because I said to them, I go, are you sure you really want to include this guy who's like the bottom of the barrel when it comes to these touts? You don't want to do this. And they go, no, don't worry, Gill. We show it. We have it on film, how he just absolutely is full of it and how he scams people the way he does things. So it's obvious it's going to be great. And actually the game results went our way. And so it really shows that. And in the end, what ended up happening was they were right. They had it all there on screen, but just sort of anecdotally, at least half the people who watched it didn't walk away thinking, oh yeah, look at this scam artist. Half the people walked away and were like, hey, because people are morons, and they go, yeah, but he's got the house in Cabo and he's got the car, that's how. And so that was kind of the biggest thing I remember from that docuseries was that very strange takeaway from people.
Well, get to know the sports gambling, as you well know. The sports gambling.
Well, what did you say?
He said all attention is good attention.
All media is good media, right? That's some people's philosophy on it. And
but let's be fair. The average sports gambler is not Rufus. The average sports gambler is not Rufus. It's not even me or Will. The average sports gambler is a moron. Okay, and it's not even beating the bod podcast listenership. I would submit that the listenership to this show is much more intelligent than the average pod. And I know this because I sit in sports books all the time and I talk to these people. The average person that bets on sports is literally a moron. Okay. Now, some of them are slightly more intelligent than others, but they're really not that bright. Okay. And you could argue the same about me on some level as being like me and you always say, Gilly, at least Stevie's smart enough to admit that the market is better than them. And on some end, I'm starting to believe that on the in game too, because the in game is getting so sophisticated that I'm not sure I can beat it anymore at in game. So at least I have some self-awareness. But really, if you talk to the people that bet on sports normally, these are not Mensa members. Okay,
I will be at the kiosk sometimes at the book, and sometimes the best conversations are you're just a fly on the wall. The person to your right, the person to your left. Sometimes they're putting the bet, talking to their butt. Oh, this will never. Oh, he's definitely going to do this. Or, you hear just sometimes I just want to record it. You hear the funniest thing of these people putting in the bets.
There was supposed to be, I don't know what happened to it. I never found out, but there was supposed to be an HBO documentary about sports betting. And Crack got me into it. I believe it was Crack who got me into it. I think so. And I ended up spending one day at Circa on a Saturday. What was the game? What was the amazing Alabama college football game this year? Was it against Georgia? Yeah, Georgia, Alabama that day. And the entire day I spent in between a young lady in her 20s who's an influencer on Instagram, a sports betting influencer, and then a young, brash guy on my left who claimed to be the biggest sports bettor in the world. And so I basically spent 3 hours listening to the bullshit. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, oh my God, this is what this is, right? Like, I had to spend 3 hours being like, yeah, no, that's not true. That's not true. Like, I'm sure I'm great for this documentary, right? Because they're like, remember the kick with Brandon Aubrey missed in some game right before that? The young lady was convinced that Vegas
rigged
made
or
it.
Locked. Those are their favorite words. This is rigged. That's a lock. I mean, they're so certain of everything.
And I would say to her, I'd be like, so you think someone in Las Vegas, a person, called, how does this work? They call the Cowboys sidelines and then they communicated in, and she just said, no, it happened. Yeah, that's what happened. And this guy claims that he's the biggest sports bettor in the world, guy on my left, because all you have to do is go against the public. And I'm like, well, probably not that simple. But anyway, to your point, Todd, right? No matter how much those guys tried to make action, like, okay, at least people can see the scam. This wasn't Bettor, right? Which never saw the light of day. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, they're not using it for anything?
Well, I don't know. We've never heard anything since.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You must have not been very good at it.
They must have been like, who's the middle-aged Jew that we picked for this? Yeah, no, but then I got to do like a testimonial, which was actually cool. We went up to the suite, and I actually got to answer questions on camera just solo, and that was great because I got to sort of dispel, right? But like just the observation of that stuff, what Todd is saying is absolutely right, where it's like we can only have an impact to a certain degree, but there's always a new generation. Like, we can't possibly stem the tide as much as we try. It's like it's a noble cause, but you can't. And
I mean, you go down to the rivers on a Saturday night, Gilly, and you watch the people standing behind the roulette table, and you're just wondering, oh, what are you doing? Well, you're just throwing your money away. This is like, give me $1, here's back 96 cents. Here's, give me $1, give back 96 cents. I mean, people just cannot grasp basic ideas.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There are some people in the public that would trade Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis and not even get like a bunch of. Oh wait, that was the Mavericks GM. I can't put that. Different.
Well, let me just add, I don't know the answer to this question. I'm going to ask Rufus this for the first time because I know I have this in my life. I'm curious if you, Will, or Todd does. But if Rufus has this, then this is the ultimate mic drop. I have a person, or maybe even two, but I'm thinking of one person in my life. They know what I do, right? They know I have a show. They know this is all I do all day long is bet.
Won't listen to you.
When I'm not couldn't care less, right? Knows everything. You can't tell him different. He's got it all figured out. And I don't volunteer anything because I don't assume he wants to know. So I don't, at this point, I'm curious, Rufus, if Rufus has somebody like this in his life, then you know it's Meshuggah. Do you?
Oh, I mean, there's definitely people like that for sure. They know what I do.
It's amazing.
And yeah, of course.
Now imagine Rufus has a friend like that. Like, Rufus can't tell me shit. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous.
People would rather win their way than lose somebody else's way. Or people would rather lose their own way than win somebody else's way. 55% of the
time. But not this time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that's the other thing, right? Because the rare opportunities where you do, let's say, I remember having a friend come in town and then he had his buddies, ask Gill what he thinks about this one game. And of course it was wrong. They're like, he don't know shit about anything, right? So
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by the way, they're adding a third green to the roulette in some roulette things. I'm like, why stop there? Why not just have 39 greens and one like number 4 or something? Like, and then that's the only one you got. It's like, what is going? It's hysterical to me.
And there's not to end it on a serious note, but this is what Rufus and I only got to like 90 seconds of the end of 3 segments on this yesterday. But it does concern if we could have one moment of seriousness, is which since gambling has been legalized, right? It does concern you that the wave is so great that problem gambling, right, is just going to only become more and more of a problem. Because everybody knows everything, and most of what you get is bad input from people, and it's just how the cookie crumbles in this. So you can only try. I mean, we try to do our little part in our corner of the world, but if Rufus has somebody who doesn't care about Rufus, that says it all to me. It's like, okay,
but I don't think that's about problem gambling as much as just. I mean, I think the problem gambling is more marketing and accessibility.
Yes, I would say that that's most of it. I'm saying they're all kind of related. Maybe I'm connecting two things.
I think making dumb bets is what isn't being a problem gambler. It's just being a recreational bettor.
Well, I think the predatory nature of books trying to get rid of anybody who's successful, but actively trying to get those who are wildly unsuccessful. We have stories. The Michael Lewis podcast touched on this.
Yes.
Of a guy writing in, "Oh my God, I am losing too much money. I need it." Oh no. Don't. By the way, don't email
don't put that in writing.
Just don't put that in writing. I'll give you more promotions. I'll give you more free play. Right? Like, that's fucked up. So,
literally saying, we'll have to close your account due to problem gambling if you put this in writing. So just call us next time.
Exactly. Can you imagine? That?
It's crazy.
But that's probably what goes on in gaming. If you probably look behind the curtain of the average casino, right? What goes on there for them to keep I remember reading that book of that guy. What was that guy's name? Who used to be on VSiN sometimes, but he was like a host for the Westgate or something. And the stuff that they would do to keep the big players to continue to play. I can't remember exactly, but it's the same. What is a casino really providing? It's a sham, really. I mean, especially in something that cannot be beat, right? What are they really providing you? Oh, recreation. Oh, what's the recreation that I'm going to lose? It's like, it's kind of, the whole thing's kind of fucked up if you want to be completely fair about it. What are they providing you? Nothing. It's a sham.
Entertainment.
Right, entertainment. Okay, so is that really entertaining though? Like what? You would never go to gamble. Okay, well then maybe I just don't get it.
Look, Jeff Ma loves playing craps, and he always wants me to go play with him, and I'm always like, I just don't really care that much about craps because I have to relearn the rules every time. It's too complicated.
Right.
Todd, you love double stuffed Oreos. So, I mean, we all have our thing. I get it.
No, I don't. First of all, I don't love. That's one thing that I don't like. I wish all the food was double stuffed Oreos, but then I'd be thin. But yes,
I'm sorry. I love Reese's. You like the Reese's the white chocolate pretzel ones?
And you know what's crazy about that Reese's thing? I was obsessed with those Reese's. Now I won't even eat them. It's unbelievable how your mind has a mind of its own. And I couldn't stop eating those fucking Reese's pretzels. And now I look at them and I don't even want them. It's bizarre world.
Incredible. It's incredible. They're so good. All right. Well, I didn't see it going this way, but maybe that's the appropriate way to end it. I hope Super Bowl 59 is a profitable experience for all. Another season with Todd Wishnev, his 6th on the MegaPod. Todd, about to set records. Thank you, Todd.
Wow.
I appreciate it. Very great response.
I'm so proud of myself.
And Will Hill, name of the podcast for Will is Should Have Bet More. Check that out. And Rufus Peabody, who does his thing again. Massey Peabody Analytics. Unabated is where I don't know, is that your primary gig now? I don't know what to say. And the Bet the Process podcast with Jeff Ma, which is great too. With Michael Lewis.
Primary gig has always been betting.
Primary gig is betting. I'm sorry to say.
But we're recording Bet the Process this afternoon with Judah Fortgang, going to talk some Super Bowl.
You love Judah as a guest, right? You love Judah.
He's great. He's so good because he marries the math and the football knowledge really, really well. And he's really good with sort of the SGP stuff and thinking about the narratives and how the game can play out and really constructing good SGPs from that.
Who's your favorite guest of all time? Terrible.
Michael Lewis.
Michael Lewis.
Then you, Gill. Then you.
By the way, I might have been Jeff Ma's least favorite guest.
The funny thing is, everybody says that. Everybody thinks that they're his least favorite guest. That's kind of the magic of Jeff.
I mean, he is Asian, right?
Maybe the anti-magic. I don't know.
I was not nearly heady enough for the Bet the Process audience. I was just like, I think we got down like a sports betting broadcast rabbit hole, which is kind of my strike zone. Yeah, I didn't think Jeff enjoyed it very much. Anyway, Bet the Process is where Rufus does his thing. Good luck to everyone. Good luck to you. We will do podcasts after this. Just going to take a couple week breaks before we get back to Indian Wells tennis. We'll do, of course, the NFL draft, the Masters, and all that on the Beating the Book feed. So just that the MegaPod is in. Good luck with Super Bowl 59 and all your
maybe the NCAA tournament will do with me and Willie pulling it out of our ass again.
And the March Madness pod, of course, where Will famously had FAU in the Final Four and Todd called the finals that year. That was amazing. Good luck with all your bets. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.